How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video, we're going to go in detail with this current snowstorm in the Midwest and determine how much snowfall you should see in each area of the Midwest. And we're also going to take a look at several more long-term snowstorms that could bring major impacts to other areas of the Midwest as well as the Northeast. But first, let's take a look at this current snowstorm. So we do have an elongated area of snowfall extending through Nebraska. We do have scattered snow showers occurring right around northern Missouri and southern Iowa. This extends into the southern portion of South Dakota as well, and this goes further westward into Wyoming and northern Colorado. However, the main low pressure system is located right around the border of Utah and Colorado at this time, and as this continues to head further eastward, we're going to see the convective activity rise over time, and we're going to see the snowfall become heavy at times right over Kansas. And this area of snow showers should linger around, bringing mainly light snow, but the worst of the storm should come from this area of moisture you see right here, since the center circulation is located over here. And expect the convective activity to enhance by the time this approaches Kansas once this encounters more instability in the Midwest, since temperatures over the southeast are very warm and humid at this time, and it's going to interact with a very cool air mass just behind this low pressure system. The GFS forecast model shows this instability where we clearly see this low is continuing ahead further eastward, and if you were to look at the blue contour lines, this represents a cooler than average air mass, and moving forward, temperatures will fall well below average for many areas of the Rocky Mountain ranges, including the Kansas area. And once this cool air mass interacts with the very warm and convective air mass right over the southeast, that's when you should see a pretty large area of snowfall, and the snow could be heavy at times. Even though it's going to be a short duration event, the snowfall will fall at a very fast clip, which means that the roadways should be pretty impassable for a large portion of the day for the Kansas area. So you definitely need to take the necessary precautions, as the worst of the snowfall should happen right around the Saturday morning time frame. So you definitely want to be aware of that throughout Kansas. And if we were to continue to move forward with the forecast, by the time we approach Saturday afternoon, the snowfall should move into northern Missouri, but this storm system will weaken the further eastward it moves from Kansas, thanks to the fact that the instability will begin to reduce. The cool air mass won't be as potent as it was, compared to, let's say, when it was right over Colorado and Kansas. So we're going to see the convective activity decrease as a result. There's going to be less lift with less cold air, forcing the warmer air mass further upwards to enhance the convective activity. And moving forward with the forecast, we do see the snow eventually moves into the Illinois area, the Milwaukee area, and a large portion of Michigan gets involved with a large area of light snowfall. And moving forward, we do see Detroit could get involved with maybe around less than an inch of snowfall, maybe just a coating of snow in the grassy areas, but not necessarily the street right over Detroit. And Chicago should expect anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow from this storm system. And moving forward, by the time this approaches the Northeast, mainly the snow should be relegated to the interior Northeast, mainly due to the fact that there's going to be a ridge that's going to bring too strong of a southerly flow for the cold air to linger around and bring snowfall potentially to the more coastal areas of the Northeast. So this should entirely be a rain event for Boston, New York City, and the forecast is certain at this time this is within the 72-hour forecast range. So when we're talking about forecast that's only around 72 hours out, then the certainty is most likely high with the forecast. There are certainly some exceptions with a couple of snowstorms, but when we see the GFS model as well as the European model agreeing on the same idea regarding the area of snowfall and accumulation, then you should definitely say that the forecast is more certain than not over a lot of these areas. So So for the interior Northeast, you should expect snowfall, while the coastal Northeast, it should primarily be a rain event thanks to the amount of ridging that's located right up along the East Coast at this time. And continuing to move forward with the forecast, we do see behind this storm system, it does become interesting because we see a pretty strong northerly flow that's going to bring this Arctic air further southward, and this could potentially be a catalyst for our next snowstorm over the Midwest and potentially the Northeast as well. Taking a look at what the GFS model is forecasting in the more long-term future, we see that the GFS model does expect the Clipper system to move along this northwesterly flow and bring some isolated snow showers right over northern Michigan and potentially northern Minnesota as well, while keeping temperatures well below average. So for much of the Northeast as well as the northern Midwest, you should expect this approaching week to be cooler than average thanks to this strong northwesterly flow. And like I said, this could be our next catalyst in developing our next snowstorm over the northern Midwest and potentially the Northeast. And moving forward with the forecast, we're going to see that a low pressure system coming off the Pacific Northwest coast should move down the Rocky Mountain ranges, and it should bring a small pocket of cold air. And when you bring a small pocket of cold air over a very warm and humid air mass that's located in the south, then that's just asking for an increase of convective activity right over Texas, Louisiana, extending into Arkansas as well, and that would lead to our next snowstorm in the Midwest as we approach this coming week. And we see the convective activity begins right around the Friday time frame thanks to the pocket of cold air that's moving along this small low pressure system, as we do see there's a lot more lift thanks to this cold air interacting with this very warm air mass. And moving forward with what the GFS model is stating, the GFS model does eventually expect the temperature to stabilize for much of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. So mainly in the GFS model scenario, the extreme northern portions of the Midwest experience snowfall, such as Wisconsin, extending into Michigan as well. And this snowfall mainly impacts the interior Northeast. It's very light snowfall, as the GFS model doesn't expect that this specific snowstorm will be all that powerful for much snowfall to occur, but it's certainly good to take note of this because this low pressure system could potentially lead to more cold air moving into the United States, which could bring even more powerful snowstorms in the more long-term future. We see that behind this low pressure system, we do on the backside of this storm system, there is going to be an increase of convective activity that could lead to our next snowstorm that could be more significant in the more long-term future. Taking a look at the Sunday, December 3rd time frame, we're seeing very heavy rainfall right over Texas. There is a decent amount of cold air thanks to another small low pressure system that's non-visible in the GFS model's map, but it certainly exists, and this cold air will certainly enhance the air pressure along the surface for the convective activity to increase. And we definitely see that by the time we approach on Sunday, where there's plenty of thunder shower activity going on in the southeast, and there could be that possibility that maybe just enough cold air exists for a significant snowstorm to occur in the Northeast. So this is definitely something to keep in mind. Let me show you guys the 18Z run, because the 18Z run does expect a little bit more cold air to exist in the Northeast, so where some of the bigger cities get involved with a more significant snowstorm. So moving back to that forecast time period, we do see Boston gets involved with some snowfall, as well as a much larger portion of upstate New York. This isn't relegated just to the higher elevations anymore. Albany is near sea level, but still receives a very heavy snowfall from this, and this extends into Michigan, a larger portion of Michigan and Wisconsin as well. So there's definitely something to be aware of. And again, as a slow pressure moves eastward, it should enhance the northerly flow for the cold air to linger, and that could lead to maybe a snowstorm pattern by the time we approach the early to mid part of December, where the cold air just doesn't seem to stop by the time we approach the mid-December time period. So it's definitely something to take note of, but it really all depends on how powerful these two initial snowstorms will be. The more powerful they are, the more likely we're going to see a strong northerly flow that will enhance the possibility of potentially a more significant snowstorm pattern developing by the time we approach mid-December, which is what the GFS model is currently forecasting. So while this first snowstorm might not necessarily be very significant, it seems like both for this snowstorm, it seems like both the GFS and the European model are expecting this storm to be fairly weak, so you shouldn't expect a ton of snow from this storm. However, it's not necessarily this snowstorm that could be a concern, but it's the snowstorms after this, because if this induces just enough of a northerly flow, we could see a lot more of this and a more significant snowstorm pattern developing right over the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Now, taking a look at what the European model is forecasting at around the same time period, the European model is less confident in this. The European model doesn't expect as much instability to exist for us, for the chance of a snowstorm pattern developing to be as high. And taking a look at what the GFS model is forecasting, so for this first snowstorm, it's pretty much the same as the GFS model, which is why I said that the forecast is pretty certain. So expect 1 to 3 inches of snow for a large portion of the Midwest and heavier snowfall right over Kansas, where you should expect 6 to 9 inches. But moving forward beyond this point, the European model also expects a strong northwesterly flow to exist during the early part of the week to bring the temperatures cooler than average. And moving forward beyond this point, the European model also expects a pocket of cold air to move in and just enough instability for the convective activity to increase right over the southern Midwest, but expects an even weaker storm, as the European model, like I said, doesn't expect as much cold air to move further southward for this storm system to have as much energy or convective available potential energy for the convective activity to stay afloat as it continues ahead further eastward. So we pretty much just see it dissipate, not really producing any snowfall. And then behind this storm system, we see that the convective activity is certainly a lot higher, but the southerly flow is just too strong for any sort of significant snowfall to occur, as even the northern Midwest experiences primarily a rain event in a scenario like this, thanks to the amount of ridging that's located just to the east of this storm system, which is enhancing the southerly flow a bit too much for snowfall to occur. But there's still a lot of time to iron out the forecast, and I think it all starts with this snowstorm on Friday, December 1st. If it's a little bit stronger, we're going to see a stronger northerly flow that will enhance the possibility of not only a stronger storm system, but cool air lingering around the northern northeast for a snowstorm to occur. So we're definitely going to keep tabs on this snowstorm, especially that should occur, like I said, right around the December 1st time frame. So still a time to iron out the forecast. I will say most likely this snowstorm won't bring much of anything outside of maybe snowfall in the northern Midwest, but it's what's after this storm system that could be an issue for the Midwest and the Northeast. So for more in detail forecasts when it comes to this current snowstorm for the Midwest, so if we were to take a look at the Futurecast radar, you will see that the worst of the snowfall should occur right around the Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon time frame for much of Kansas, and the lighter shades of white represents very heavy snowfall. So you should expect snowfall rates that are close to 1 inch per hour at times over some areas of Kansas, which is definitely enough to make the roads impassable and potentially dangerous. So you want to take necessary precautions right around the Saturday afternoon time frame. And by Saturday evening, this snow should move into northern Missouri and pretty much linger around over the overnight hours on Sunday. And then we should eventually see the snowfall move over Chicago, but it'll be a much weaker storm system at this time. So snowfall will mainly be light, but it still should accumulate to anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snowfall right over Chicago and Milwaukee, which is definitely something to be aware of, especially if you're thinking about your commute back from potentially your Thanksgiving plans on Sunday. So definitely pay close attention to this over the northern Midwest, including Chicago, maybe even Detroit as well could get involved with some accumulating snowfall. But the worst of the snowfall should occur over Kansas, so you need to take the biggest necessary precautions right around that area. Another thing that I think could encourage a significant snowstorm pattern developing by the time we approach early to mid-December is the fact that we're going to be in the negative North Atlantic oscillation. And typically during a negative North Atlantic oscillation, we see the westerly winds weaken, which allows a cold air to have more of a shot of moving southward into the United States. And that typically brings colder temperatures as well as a higher amount of instability for more significant snowstorms to develop. So thanks to the negative North Atlantic oscillation that's expected during early to mid-December, I think that the chance of a snowstorm should increase for the Midwest as well as the Northeast. So here's a look at my current forecast when it comes to this current Midwest snowstorm. So oh wait, this is a wrong map. Let me show you guys the correct map. I apologize. Okay, so here is my correct map for today. The prior map I just showed you was for yesterday. So for today's forecast, when it comes to snowfall accumulation, you should expect 6 to 9 inches of snowfall right over Kansas and the extreme northern portions of Oklahoma as the storm system continues to head further eastward. 1 to 3 inches over Chicago, Milwaukee, and surrounding areas, including Iowa, Michigan, a large portion of Michigan, and northern Missouri. So definitely keep that in mind for your Thanksgiving commute. And I listed this area as having a major snowstorm potential, as I do believe that the next few low pressure systems could encounter just enough cold air for significant snowfall to occur in the interior Northeast. But I wouldn't be surprised in the more long-term future we see this potential move further southward to where maybe the coastal Northeast would get involved if the North Atlantic oscillation takes shape and we see enough cold air move further southward. So definitely be aware of that possibility right over the interior Northeast as well as the interior portions of the Great Lakes, and even extending a little bit further southward into the coastal Northeast as well. But that's it for now, guys, and I thank you guys for watching.